All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know we're live in full effect tonight, and we have the one and only. We got the legendary radio personality, actor, legendary DJ of the Beastie Boys, including the host of Yo MTV Raps, the one and only Dr. Dre, right here live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Evening, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. I hope everything is all well on your end, man. I'm so glad just to be able to look at the world and just know that like we're kind of back to normal, getting these masks off.
Well, I'm not certain about being back to normal, but I'm hoping everybody's doing well, and still make sure you keep yourself safe, because we do have another variant that's exploding all over the place. So
I definitely heard about that. Down here in Canada, they say we're on the sixth wave now, which is crazy. So hopefully everyone stays safe and it clears up soon.
Well, I don't know if it's crazy. I just think people should have paid attention from day one when they started speaking about this, that this wasn't going to go away that fast.
But Dre, I know you're a very busy individual, so I'm going to dive right into this interview, but I want to take you back to the early 1980s where you were actually a DJ at WBAU, a university radio station out there in Garden City, New York. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about your early college work, and of course, what really inspired you to get into radio broadcasting?
Oh, I've been in radio broadcasting since I was in high school. It was strange. I came across this broadcast booth they had there with some microphones, and I said, "Oh, what do we use this for?" And I convinced the principal to let me actually play music during lunchtime, during lunch hours. He said, "But don't you got class?" I said, "Yeah, I got plenty of class. That's why I keep DJing here." So when I got an opportunity, when I went to Adelphi University, I met a gentleman named Mr. William Bill Stephanie, Harold McGregor, and of course Carl Ridenauer, a.k.a. Chucky D, a.k.a. Chuck D, in the black music class by the late great Dr. Andre Strobert, Professor Dr. Andre Strobert, and we fast became friends, and Bill and Chuck introduced me to WBAU at Adelphi University. I had heard about it, but I never knew it was on campus.
And I have to ask as well, because obviously you guys must have played hip-hop and whatnot, but like, what was it like just actually working at that university radio station? Was it a really big station that reached outside of the university, or was it just for the university students?
I know it reached out. It reached as far as in Nassau County. We went as far as Suffolk County, which is the whole county over. Not deep dark in the Long Island, but we also reached as far deep as in Brooklyn, New York, in on Long Island. Yes, Brooklyn, Queens, and we had a very large audience that listened to us. And the cool thing about it was we had an opportunity to work this thing, which I call my greatest incubator in life. And one of my greatest experiences in life, working with Spectrum City, President Shockley, Wizard KG, which also became Chief Shockley, Butch Cassidy, my partner T Money, EVG Rockwell, and Rapper G, and of course the one and only MC DJ Flavor. We didn't go to the school, but we were up there actually working all we could. And the late great Rusty J, and of course the one and only Night Nurse, who opened up Monday nights for us. We took the opportunity, and we wanted to broadcast to the community, and we wanted to make sure that we had what the community needed. We were in service to deliver not only the news and the music, but to also bring forth camaraderie. And actually, we were great DJs and promoters that we promoted our own parties. So BAU was just a great vehicle for us to actually use that.
And also as well, during your time at WBAU, yourself and the other individuals that ran the station, you guys actually formed the group Concept Crew, now known as Original Concept. I was wondering, what actually made you guys decide to come together and form this group?
Well, we were already the group of Concept as a DJ group, and Chuck and Hank and Butch Cassidy and Keith were Spectrum City. And when we aligned each other for BAU, that became our big group, BAU. WBAU at Adelphi, 90.3 FM, 516-747-4757. The group of Concept, we made a promo for the station, which was called It's Great to Be Here, which eventually became Can You Feel It as an Original Concept. And we did this promo, which Rick Rubin loved, called Knowledge Me. And Knowledge Me was nothing but a promotion of all the different shows and characters that were there at the station. It was Wizard KG and Butch Cassidy who came up with the yo, yo, cuz, yo. And T. Minnie and I just took the opportunity and made a promo, and everybody loved that on the station. So I went and we played it for Rick Rubin, and he just thought it was out of this world. And he wanted to found the group, and we actually were signed to Def Jam as a concept, not as original concept. But at the same time, we were finishing the record and it was coming out. And Def Jam had just got their huge deal at Columbia, CBS at the time. Another group came out with the concept of the record. We didn't even know what that record was. And we didn't care. I was just so pissed off. We got it in our record pool. They were going, can't believe this group is called a concept. And it was the late, great MCA, when we were sitting at Rick Rubin's apartment, who said, you guys are original concept. I hated the name personally. He thought it was like, well, it's a pretty good idea. And it stuck. So we went from being the concept to then becoming the original concept.
And I gotta say as well, that album you guys released, Straight from the Basement of Cooley High, is absolutely legendary in my personal opinion. The song that I always enjoy the most is Here Comes the 5-0, man. It's such an amazing song.
Wow. That's funny. You must be talking to my son. My son speaks about that all the time, and he says, Dad, I don't know, but that record and what you did on that album, you were miles ahead of people. I mean, people just didn't get it. That album also sat in the can about a year. When I came off the tour from working with the Beastie Boys as their DJ, and we were on the Raising Hell tour, my group, we wrote the song Proud to Be Black on the Raising Hell album for Run DMC. And when I left the tour and came back to finish Straight from the Basement of Cooley High, it took a long time to get the record out. And we just kept making music, kept doing things. And the one thing I always wanted to do with original concept was be on cutting edge and try to do different things that weren't exactly happening at that moment in hip-hop and rap music. So it was an effort, and I have to thank great people who contributed to it. The late, great Jeff Air Force, who was on it, my partner, Elliot Noble, co-producer, and a lot of other great people. Easy G Rockwell, DJ, T-Money, Rapper G, Extraordinaire, and Randy London, the late, great Mike Jackson, who played on that. We had a lot of great people, and of course, my good friend Kenny Wallace, who engineered it, and we did it out of his studio, most of the album. And of course, the one and only great Steve Eck, who helped me for 36 and a half hours to put together the song Pump That Bass at Chunky and Thousand Metal. Thank you. Yeah.
And also, as well, as you mentioned a few moments ago, that you actually served as a DJ for the legendary New York City hip-hop trio, the Beastie Boys. For the listeners that might not have known this fact about you, how did yourself and the Beastie Boys originally get connected? And of course, what was it like just DJing for them? Because I heard they were wild back in the day.
Oh, they were personalities extraordinaire. Let's put it that way. We became close friends after I brought out MCA and Mike D to WBAU, and they actually saw my show. And that's how they first heard Knowledge Me, because I was going back and forth and hanging out with Rick Rubin, Russell Simmons at Rush Productions, Leo Cohen, Bill Adler, Tony Roman Company, Dr. Jekyll, a.k.a. Andre Harrell at Rush and Carmen, who was out there, and most of those folks, because we were very active and proactive what we did. So we started hanging out. And as the Def Jam deal started to be put together, Rick had less time to go out on the road with them. So he asked me would I mind doing a couple gigs with them, which I did. And because of my experience of being a street DJ and doing park jams and all kinds of club dates and you name it, I've done it, been there, club bars, everything. It just, we worked well. I did a couple of rehearsals and I watched what they did. And they said for the first time we had a DJ that the records wouldn't skip. How did you pull that off, Trev? I said, I'm a street DJ. I've been DJing for years. I know exactly what to do. And your antics and all the stuff. And I imported some ideas and some things to performing. And when I was on Raising Hell, I actually helped fix everybody else's turntables up. They were like, I don't know how you do it. They're jumping around acting crazy, but I made a bargain with them. I said, if I'm on that drum line and I'm DJing for you, you have to do whatever you want on the floor. Don't kick the riser. And that just started a good 2-year beautiful relationship DJing for them. And we contributed on their License to Ill album, because T Money and I did a vocal on the song called Girls, where Mike Diamond, he's going straight in the basement of Cooley Eye on a song called She's Got a Mustache.
And I gotta say as well, I'm really glad I had the opportunity to bring that up, because a lot of individuals, me personally, I don't feel you get enough credit for being their DJ. A lot of people think Hurricane, they think Mixmaster Mike, but in those conversations, a lot of the times I don't hear Dr. Dre being brought up. So I'm so glad I could bring that up and tell people, like, look, he did this.
Well, I gave Hurricane the job when I left the Raising Hope tour, and it's very evident. Because if you see the video, Hold It Now, Hit It, guess who's in that video? Moi.
And I have to ask, before we move off the topic of the Beastie Boys, what is one of your most fondest memories you shared on that tour? Because I got to say, going through all those cities and touring, it must have been some phenomenal fun times for yourself as a DJ.
Well, as a DJ, I used to go out and do sound check, and I remember I just finished putting together Pump That Bass, and I had the acetate, or what they would call the demo. And I walked out on stage, which I had an opportunity to play some records before I brought them out. And I remember dropping Pump That Bass for the first time and looking at 15 to 20,000 people's response and screaming and jumping to that song. And they walked out and they said, Dre, what the F was that? I said, that's the new original content single, Pump That Bass. When the hell did you do that? I wrote that on the back of the tour bus. When we were touring and we got days off, I would fly back to New York and start putting it all of it together with the group and with Kenny Wallace and Steve Ett. And we finally did the final mix. And I just thought that was an amazing moment. And I have a lot of great stories, which is in a book that I'm writing about that. I have 2 books I've been doing. One was supposed to come out before the pandemic took over, and I kind of held it back because I wanted to release it and be able to go out on a book tour with it. And that book is called Yo Bigger Stuff, the Dr. Dre episodes from 1989 to 1995, which tells of my life on MTV and doing Yo MTV Rap. Kind of starts where I actually joined Yo MTV Rap. The second book is the story before Yo MTV Rap, because I did an interview with a guy named Vlad on Vlad TV, and people kept asking me all these questions about my Beastie Boy days and my college days with Chuck, Flavor, Bill Stephanie, and Spectrum City, and Concept, and WBAU. So I decided to put it together and actually write that book. And now I got both of them. Well, really finishing up the first one now because of all the stories and all the questions that come along with it. And most of you, like I said, didn't know I DJ for the Beastie Boys until I see that Hold It Now Hit It video. And they go, wow, I see him. And they can read the book. I get a credit. Dr. Dre was our DJ.
And I gotta say as well, I'm definitely looking forward to those books and those projects as well. It's definitely gonna be a phenomenal read, just to be able to read just the in-depth story of the one and only Dr. Dre.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And your listeners for the blessing.
And also as well, when you brought up about Yo MTV Raps a few moments ago, that was actually my next question in the list. And I gotta say my apologies. I know you probably answered this multiple times, probably every interview that is. But from the year 89 to 95, yourself and Ed Lover were the hosts of MTV's hip hop program, of course, Yo MTV Raps. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners a bit more about that iconic time in your career. And of course, how did yourself and Ed Lover originally land that project?
Oh, my goodness. That is a question that's asked 1,001 times, and I'll explain it. But I will tell you that you have to go to the book for the in-depth analysis of how that kind of happened. But basically, because of my time with the Beastie Boys, I met a guy who ended up being the executive producer of Yo MTV Raps. And the gentleman who actually brought the show to New York because it was originally created in England by a woman named Sophia. And when they first cast Yo MTV Raps in New York, there was a gentleman by the name of Fab Freddy who hosted the weekend show, and he was actually going out and interviewing all the different artists on their location. Eventually, the show became very popular, and the group Run DMC and the late great Jam Master Jay hosted the pilot episode, which was really funny I'm in the pilot episode because I'm introducing Public Enemy from the Death Jam tour on stage, and they're letting everybody know what's going down. And I'm wearing my Death Jam jacket. It's about 200 degrees, and I'm sweating like a bull. But that was like some fortuitous thing in my life. You would never predict that would happen. So Peter called me and asked me if I'd seen you on TV. I thought it was really good. And, you know, I like Fab Five a lot. And he said, well, we're thinking about spinning it off to a daily show. And I'm considering you doing it. What do you want to bring to it? So I said, well, you know, we can bring some comedy sketches and some other fun stuff with Fab. I thought that would be a good idea. Because I never once in my life thought I would end up being on TV. Because I'm a big fat black guy from Long Island. I watch MTV, but I never thought I would be MTV type, the physique, the VJ style. But after talking with Peter and doing a demo for him, he took it back to work and he said, oh, man, I want you to introduce you to my production assistant, Mr. Ted Bennett. And Ted Bennett at the time was the production assistant for Peter, and they had this idea about doing the MTV rap. So when they started doing it with Fab, he introduced me to Ted. Ted and I had a good conversation. I did a little audition tape in, and when I stepped out of his office, there was a skinny black guy with blonde hair, with his, what do you call that haircut? With his Gumby haircut. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll never get this gig. That's an MTV person. So I walked back down to Peter's office. Peter said, hey, man, I got to step out for a second. And Ted came back down and said, hey, could you come back down? Well, I want to introduce you to somebody. And when I went down there, the guy wasn't there. He was in the office, and his name was Ed Lover. He introduced me, hey, I'm Ed Lover today. I'm Dr. Joy. He said, I know you. I see you on BAU. Because Ed was from Queens, New York. So we heard of the operating room. And Ted had the forethought to put us two together to actually co-host the Daily Show. And we did a Jamaican reggae set that we cracked up, and they thought we were perfect. We grabbed the cake, ran down the hall, showed it to his bosses, and when I walked back down to Peter, Peter offered me the job. And the rest is in the book, the old bigger stuff. And that's how I met Ed. Because most people think Ed and I were friends for years, but we had a great relationship, we had a great run, and we still speak to this day. So MTV was an interesting part of my life.
And also as well, I have to ask before I move off the UMTV rap stuff, because obviously you were a part of so many legendary segments and interviews and whatnot on that program just alone. What is that one scene that really still resonates with you today that you still actually think about and go, wow, like, that was amazing?
I don't. There's no one. When you do a show like that breaks so much ground and changes the world internationally, from what's going on with Salt and Pepper to St. Petersburg, Russia, and performing at the White Nights Festival, for our great opportunities we had at Spring Break with Cypress Hill, late great Biz Markie, Leaders of the New School with Busta Rhymes, Tribe Called Quest with the late great Fight Dog and Company, to our own legendary talk show, The Show, which we had Roseanne Barr, the late great Super Dick Osborne. Our band was Tony. Tom Arnold was also there. When you talk about all those kind of things, for us going the first year we went to Spring Break and me jumping off the diving board with the number one on my chest for the countdown, there's too many things to say one. Even the final show that we did with that great cycle for everybody that was there, I can't point at one event. Being James Brown, Bobby Brown being on the MTV Raps for the week, and MTV losing their mind. Interviewing Pam Grier, Howard Stern, Mel Gibson. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the greats. Run DMC, the Public Enemy. It's just too many. The other Dr. Dre and NWA with Eazy-E. We really reached so many people. But the one thing we did do is we kept everybody together. And we had an opportunity to not only expose the world to rap and hip-hop, but to be a part of that history.
And also as well, in the year 1993, yourself and Ed Lover actually ventured into acting, where you both actually starred in the amazing film Who's the Man. I was wondering, can you tell us a bit more about that film? And of course, what was it like just filming that legendary movie?
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. It was a brainchild of Ed and I to make a movie, and our manager at the time, Charles Stetler, we were trying to find something that would be a good vehicle for us. So Ed and I came up with this idea, these two barbershop guys who eventually become cops and solve a murder. And we sat with the great writer, Seth Greenland, and we put it together. And we asked Ed to come direct, and we actually started off with just doing a mystery comedy. And then we started getting people that said, hey, can I be a part of this? So we had like Chris Cross, jumped in and did a cameo. Queen Latifah was a part of the movie. Salt and Pepper actually was cast in the movie. Bo Legaloo from Full Force and Lisa Lisa the Culture and Fame was in the movie. Our friend Todd One, the late great Todd One, Kurt Flirt, T Money was in there. You know, our great Joe Merriman was in the movie. KRS-One, Run DMC and Jam Master Jay, Ice-T, Freddie Fox. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And the beautiful Moni Love, I mean, it was just amazing. And I can't forget, oh God, what's his name from Empire? The actor, it was his first acting role, because he was in the Passport one. Terrence Howard was in Who's the Man? And late great Heavy D was in there. And of course, the legendary group, they could jump around, House of Pain was in Who's the Man? So Who's the Man, which was written as a strictly a comedy mystery for us to be a part of, ended up being this great amount of great legendary performers. He was from Cypress Hill in the movie, which started all these cameos. Unfortunately, when the movie debuted, it also debuted at the time of the Rodney King verdict. And all hell broke loose on the West Coast, but we did extremely well on the East Coast. But we were in other movies also that were very interesting. But Who's the Man was our own personal vehicle, and we were very blessed and thankful for that time. And Suzanne DePass and our manager and producer of the movie, Charles Stetler, that put that together.
And I gotta say as well, I absolutely love that movie. I actually dug out the old VHS tape of that movie, actually, about, I would say, a couple weeks ago. I always like going back and watching the classics every now and then. And I don't know, my favorite scene off that movie is when you guys were, I think you guys are walking into the bar. And I think you are the one that actually told Bushwick Bill, you gotta lay off on that stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah, I gotta stop drinking. Then he passes out on the sidewalk. That part gets me.
We not only did the movie, we actually shot Going to Iraq while filming the movie. We didn't take a break. So we did everything the whole time we were there. And thank you for reminding me, the great late Bushwick Bill was in Who's the Man, yes.
And also, well, before we actually venture off your acting side, before you actually were in the TV show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode Ill Will, where you're actually a part of Will's nightmare of bad doctors. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that, and of course, what was it like just working on the set of The Fresh Prince?
It was interesting because Ed went and did the Cosby Show, and I was like, oh man, I thought. Because Bill Cosby was a guest on Your Own TV Watch, believe it or not, at the height of the Cosby Show. Cosby Show was like this incredibly mammoth show. So when Will called me and asked me, would I mind going and being a guest on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I was like, wow. Will, I've known Will since he did Girls of the World and Nothing But Trouble, when I actually DJed at a concert with the Beastie Boys and DJ for a little concert at the same concert in Philadelphia. So when he called and asked me to be a part of it, I was like, sure, why not? And I went on the set, and the one thing I kept trying to be, I said, don't go be a groupie, don't hang outside the dressing room and, be nosy, don't be on the set acting like being a foolish. So they were like, well, Trey, why don't you come out? I said, no, because you guys are doing this, and I want to make sure that I don't disrupt. And I watched everything, sitting in the thing, and I was like, Trey, dude, come on, hang out. What's wrong with you? I said, no, I don't want to be a burden. And he said, look, and the cast was so warm to me. Alfonso was great. We had a good time. We wrote my rhyme for that segment of the show, and it was just a very good time. And that was a lot of fun. And as I said, you were making the TV show. You guys, you're so good.
And the one thing I have to ask pertaining to that, because I do know they had like an every show ritual where they would all get in. I believe it was Will's dressing room. They all go in and like all get like an instrument and like play it and have like a before show ritual. Were you actually part of that episode's before show ritual?
Yes, yes. And that was funny because first I was going to beatbox. I said, I'm a DJ. Give me the turntables and I'll show you the music. But I'll do it on the 1 and 2s. And Jazzy Jeff and I cracked up about that. And, you know, I felt in a very warm family atmosphere, and it was very welcoming, and I just blessed for the opportunity. And I just want everybody, before everybody condemns Will for life, give him a little forgiveness and give him a little love. We all make mistakes in our life. So I hope he and Chris Rock and Jada work it out amongst themselves. But Will Smith is he's a good dude. Just made a big mistake. That's all.
And also as well, November 8th of 94, yourself and Ed Lover actually released the iconic album Back Up Off Me. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind that amazing record, and of course, why wasn't there ever a follow-up project to that one?
Well, thank you for being so kind about Back Up Off Me. At that time in 1994, as you said, Ed and I were also on the radio in New York with the #1 morning show on Hot 97, and our great co-host Lisa G, with Al Barry, Wayne Mayo, Kurt Flirt, and Pia James. We had a great group of people doing, and we actually beat Howard Stern in the ratings while we were doing that show. We did that record because we wanted to do a record for the longest, since about 91, 92. We were signed actually to Soul Records with Bill Stephan and Hank Shockley on MCA Records at the time. But the Bomb Squad was going to actually produce our first record, but because of the schedules, public enemy and everything, we just couldn't get under the wing to get it done. So we met up with our same Def Jam and London C producer BD, and he produced the first single, Back Up Off Me, which was a skit again from the radio we were doing in the morning. Back up off me, back up off me. All you need is up is you can back up off me, back up off me, BACKUB off me. So we did that energy and camaraderie, T-Money's energy from us being on MTV Rap and always fooling around with music, decided for us to make this record. And the reason there was no follow-up, because the one thing we found out after doing that record and being on MTV and for being the #1 radio show in New York, there weren't any hip-hop radio stations like we were doing in New York. It just didn't exist. So to get that record played on classic R&B record stations and other DJs in different parts of the country was very hard. Because some people, you know, they just didn't want to give that record a chance. But we made the video. People loved it. Sapphire Freddy directed it. We were all on the ball doing it. But that's the reason there was really no follow-up, because if we decided to make another record, who was going to play it? And that was a hard thing for us to get it done.
And I gotta say as well, I actually have one of the songs off that record locked and loaded to actually play immediately following this interview, just to give the listeners a taste of this classic record. I actually got Tootin' on the Hooters actually locked and loaded.
Oh, Tootin' on the Hooters. That's an interesting one. I thought you were going to go back and forth. Okay. You can toot on those Hooters. There's also a song that was never released on the album that I had done. I did a parody record that Ed wrote called Summertime, which was a classic from the DJ Jazzy Jeff's first Prince song, Summertime, and I actually recorded it with Jazzy Jeff in the same studio with the same young lady who sang the hook. She sang Summertime for us, and I don't know what happened, but at the last minute, it got pulled off the album.
And also as well, aside from music and DJing, you also had your own clothing line as well, titled Biggest Stuff in the early 90s. I was wondering, what actually made you start up that clothing line? And of course, is it actually still in operation today? And if so, where can we actually snag ourselves some of your merchandise?
Well, simple and plain. My good friend Chucky, college buddy, had a clothing line with a Republic Enemy merchandising clothing line with the Richard A. Leslie Company. And he said to me, Dre, you want to do clothes here with me? I said, Chuck, I'm not a clothing designer. What do you think? He said, yeah, but people like what you wear. Just come on, check it out. So he gave Ed and I an opportunity to make clothing lines. Ed did a clothing line called Ed Said, where he was going to take phrases that he used and put on a T-shirt, and on the back was what Ed Said. I came up with bigger stuff, which originally was called Dr. Dre's Fat Gear. That is a dispute with us in Fat Farm, because I told them fat was a generic term. You can't own it. But we were going back and forth and doing Fun Splash for Young TV Rap. And there was this guy, I forgot his name, Lieutenant Colonel, went up to me and said, "Oh, Bigger! This is Bigger!" And he called me Bigger, and from that moment on, Ed was calling me Bigger all the time. That's what I can't stand you do that. He said, "But you're Bigger! You're Bigger!" And I said, "You know what, wait a minute. Let me change the name of this." And it became Dr. Dre's Bigger Stuff. And I went to the warehouse, and I picked out some samples that they had in the sporting goods company. And they had loads and loads of stuff that was my size, jackets, fit suits, everything. And I spoke to the guy, Joey, who was working with Chuck, and we made the logo and the patch, and we put it on all this stuff, and it went crazy. Even Shaquille O'Neal took my jacket off my back, put it on, and he probably still has one of the last biggest stuff jackets and merchandise. My children want to relaunch it, so we're debating on that in the next year or so to actually relaunch Dr. Dre's Bigger Stuff. Because my son wears it, he's a musician, and he wears it all the time. He has all the extra jackets and sweatshirts. My brother Fred was involved, and we had an opportunity, but business was business, and that's in the book too. I talk about that in Your Bigger Stuff.
And also, as well, I have to ask, what is next for yourself, Dr. Dre? I do know you said you actually have 2 books currently in the works. I was wondering if you want to talk a little bit more about your book, and of course, all the other stuff you actually got going on that you want to let our Canadian listeners know this evening.
Well, basically, I love going to Canada. I used to have a girlfriend in Canada I used to go see all the time in Toronto. I'm considered what you call a blind amputee and type 2 diabetic. I consider myself super bad. And because of my condition, I have a foundation called the Dr. J Victory Foundation, which we try to raise greater accessibility for people with disabilities and special needs. So we're doing things to help things for the blind community and raising different technologies that exist to help guide us through. I just had a conversation with this other foundation that deals with guide dogs, and we're about to do a collaboration with them. I deal with folks with amputations and trying to make sure we get amputees that can't afford it to be able to actually get them some prosthetics that they need, whether it be in their arms, legs, or whatever. And, of course, trying to help the diabetic community, working with the type 2 diabetic community, with better health and wellness and living and working with them. So I got a lot of little things going on. Again, I was really kind of being patient for this pandemic to slow down a little bit and maybe be able to take the masks off. But we'll see how as it progresses. I definitely want to get back out there and do a lot of help for a lot of different communities that I do, because like I said, I am super B, AD. I'm a blind amputee and a type 2 diabetic. And there's so much work I want to do, as well as my arm being twisted to go back in the studio and start doing some music. I will be doing that also. So, yeah, my plate's kind of full, but I enjoyed writing these books. And I just looking back on my life, because I'm a big reader. I do a lot of reading on with Audible. And I just feel I have a story that needs to be told.
And I got to say, thank you so much for what you do with that organization, because I've never said this live on the radio station airwaves, but I feel this is a good time to say this. In 2010, I actually lost my uncle to diabetes. He actually was born with type 2.
Oh, so sorry to hear that.
I got to say it, unfortunately, but I just want to say thank you, because it's putting a lot of hope, for what you're doing, it's putting a lot of hope into individuals' lives that are dealing with this terrible disease, into finding a cure. So thank you so much for what you do, Dr. Dre.
You're so blessed. You're so welcome. Because it's about not just the word cure, it's better treatment, better research, better understanding, better ways of taking care of yourself, from your health and wellness to actually, if you're a big fast food person, cut it down to a day and go more plant-based, more vegetables, drink a lot more water. Please leave the soda alone. Modify your diet so you can actually extend your life. And, going out being able to talk about this, that's what I said. I'm really kind of hoping that this pandemic really starts to calm down so I can actually go out and do what I really want to do. And that's give a better awareness to folks with these problems and try to say, you know what, we may be considered disabled or special needs. We need people with autism, women, battered women, all types of different situations. We're going to put a big light on it. And let's start solving some of these problems, actually going out and working hard to make sure we can bring awareness and also bring some type of greater solution to it and just get the conversations going. There's a lot of great organizations out there. What I try to do now is get together and collaborate. Because I'm not trying to do it by myself. I'm trying to do it with a whole group of people. There's over 1 billion people in the world with disabilities. And there's over 1.5 billion people with diabetes and over 1 billion who are visual impairment or blind. My job is to go out there and bring them together, same way we did with your MTV rap, and offer great solutions and listen to other people's ideas. Very important.
And quickly, Jerry, before we move off this topic, obviously you have this, as you already know, you have this organization and you help a lot of people. How can us, the listeners, actually get more involved with your organization? Is there a place to donate or get more involved and help out?
Well, my family set up a GoFundMe page for Dr. Dre to fight back. I appreciate all those folks that got involved with that, and we kind of let that go as we were building the foundation. We're going to have a big launch with the foundation and how to get people involved with what we're doing. I'd love to come back and do another interview and help launch it right now in Canada with you. I really appreciate your interest, but we're a couple of months away from that. Right now, all my efforts are going towards my daughter, who's about to graduate law school, and I love her to death. She's been the pulse of my life for the longest, and all my kids. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and I'm blessed with all of them. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful. So, we're getting everybody together, and then we're going to do a launch. It's what we're going to do with the Dr. Dre Victory Foundation. So stay tuned. Stay on your social media platforms. And this Sunday, I'm going to be on Clubhouse with a group that does samples at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Dre Yo TV Raps Part 2. I did Part 1, and they said it was the largest audience they had for their Clubhouse room. So those who have Clubhouse, please join us on Sunday. That's right, Easter Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You got any questions? You got any remarks? You want to hear a good show and have some fun? And we got some guest folks coming in. Please, you too, feel free to join in.
Hey, I got to say, you best believe I'll be there, Dr. J. I'll be there with my food in hand, Easter dinner, and some great conversation, man. I don't know how you can beat Easter with that.
Absolutely. Bring your chocolate eggs, chocolate bunnies, and I'll just sit there and be crying because I can't have the chocolate eggs and bunnies. Maybe I'll sneak a jelly bean here and there.
But also, Dre, this is the time in the interview quickly, right before I wrap things up, that I just give a chance for the individual that is live on the radio station airwaves, just a chance to give, shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, and of course, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything Dr. Dre, but you are the legendary Dr. Dre, and this is a hip-hop radio station, so I really hope everybody already hit that follow button.
I appreciate that. You can follow me at Dr. Dre39 on your Instagram or on your Twitter account, as long as Elon Musk doesn't shut me down. And that's Dr. DOCTORDRE number 39 at your Instagram and at your Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. And you can check me out later tonight on Facebook Live with my partner, Alonzo Williams. We have a show called Legendary Connects. He's the godfather of West Coast hip-hop. He's the godfather with the World Class Record Crew and the other Dr. Dre. And here I am, the new Dr. Dre on this coast, on the East Coast, and we're Legendary Connects. And along with our good, beautiful co-host, Miss Bernadette, Queen Bernadette, it's a show that starts in another 40 minutes, and I got to jump because I won't have a voice because of that. But we talk about everything. We bring up the music. We talk about current events, and it's just a blessing to have to spend time here with you. I look forward to having another conversation as we launch the Dr. Dre Victory Foundation.
You already know, Dre, you're always welcome here on the radio station. And I gotta say quickly, I've been a fan of you for a long time, man. You were actually one of the individuals that actually inspired me to get on the turntables and actually become a DJ and inspire and pursue that. So for that, Dr. Dre, thank you so much for just years upon years of amazing work within the music industry, and of course, inspiring not only myself, but millions upon millions of viewers and listeners worldwide. So for that, Dre, thank you so much for the inspiration.
You are so welcome. You're so welcome. Do they still have much music up in Canada?
They do. It's called Much now, unfortunately. So they took all the music off, just like MTV, and it's now all drama shows. I call it the Canadian MTV, unfortunately, because there's no music anymore.
I remember because I was on that channel at one time. I did a couple interviews on there. I was very good. So.
Yeah, Much Music was phenomenal, but now it's just a normal television show that plays the same episodes of The Simpsons for like 10 hours a day.
Well, that's why we have you and we have the internet. And like I said, I would love to keep going, but I'm getting nudged, and I know I got to jump. But thank you for taking time out. I appreciate your following me and your blessings, and I want to thank your audience for actually listening to me this evening, and I look forward to actually spending more time. And again, the Dr. Victory Foundation, if you want to put something and send something to us, you can send it to my GoFundMe page, Dr. Dre, the Fight Back. But otherwise, thank you for the blessing.
You are most certainly welcome, Dre. Have yourself a wonderful night.
You too. Look forward to speaking with you again.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
All right. Be good.